Alright, response video to the modern mystic who appears to be back in English snobby yobby mood, mode. I mean, just really, it's just so patronizing, so arrogant. Just hardly obnoxious individual sometimes. So anyway, let's call this one Gary Cash, and we'll jump up a bit into it. See if we get to the really obnoxious little bits. So anyway, here's context. Now we've had this protracted conversation about cash. I've clearly stated I prefer digital cash. I would prefer a digital representation for my cash. I don't like corporate money. I don't want corporate money. I don't want PayPal money. I don't want Wells Fargo money. I don't want Citibank money. I want my money in a secure account, period. That would be my preference. Or if I can, a savings and loan, some other kind of institution I would like to do my banking with and be able to digitize it and do it so in an economically fair and decent manner where I'm not getting exploited by corporations that charge us way overcharge us. It's not that complicated. But anyway, the distinction was made that it has nothing to do with paper money. It has to do with money, the idea of money, whether it's in the form of paper or digits, whether you have a physical check or a digital check. Digital cash, paper cash, digital check, digital paper check. That's the difference. The difference is between having checks and cash. I don't want checks on my shelf. I want cash on my shelf, if possible, where possible, when possible. And that's all I was saying about my personal preference. Obviously, banking digits are just fine most of the time, as you stated, but it's not 0.01%. It's 0.2% or whatever. I mean, it's every 70 or 80 years that the system collapses completely, and there's plenty of crises in terms of recessions. So let's not pretend that it's all fun and games and nothing ever goes wrong. Please. 0.01%. No. Sorry. There's depressions a lot more often than that in history. Crises. And again, the whole point of my argument about cash and this digital shit is that in the exact time where we see the brick wall a-comin', they're doing things that make disaster more likely, not disaster less likely. They're taking away all of our capacity to grip a rock or grab something to slow this thing down or to not fall all the way over the cliff. That's my argument, is that they're just putting weight in the car and then shoving it down the hill. And that's really stupid. I mean, you can see the writing on the wall, kind of, that we sort of reached an end point of the capitalist psychology, and it's going to need a kind of reboot, and you can reboot hard or you can reboot soft, and I'm arguing that they've obviously chosen the hard reboot, because you really can't afford a hard reboot in a nuclear age. I might even add that as a secondary statement. That's even more urgent that government be cognizant of its responsibility to be able to deal with this thing if the wheels fall off, or a wheel falls off. So, I really do, yeah, I mean, I should play this video because it was obnoxious. That's the only word for it. It's obnoxious, at least in bits. So I'm going to play some of it because it's just stupid. It was a stupid video. Just profoundly ignorant based on the context of the conversation we've already had. You already mentioned some other blog writer who's talked about digitizing cash. She didn't talk about abolishing cash, abolishing money. She talked about digitizing it. I have nothing against digital money. I'm making an argument between a distinction between cash and checks. Shit. I mean, this too big to fail shit isn't going to work forever. I mean, you keep pretending that, oh yeah, well, it's all safe. We've FDIC'd insured $7 trillion worth of assets with a $20 billion fund, or $30 billion. Is that going to work? No.
Really points to a real meaning to saying it's a standard. Well, hit me again with it. But really, I think that's going to fall into semantics.
Okay, so he says it's semantics to talk about a standard, to talk about the idea that you monetize things based on a unit of measure. So now we can make sheep, cows, corn, wheat, gold, oil. We can all connect them to one thing and say this is their relative value. And I'm arguing that that's what a standard does. That's the role currency has. We have a currency standard. We have a cash standard. It's not a gold standard, not some other. We have a cash standard, and cash is a really good standard because we can control exactly how much of it exists. And that's what makes it an excellent standard.
Say it's a commodity that we've created, implying that when you've got a limited amount of a certain commodity, it generally has a more solid value, let's say, than if it's
yeah, and look, it really wouldn't work. Cash would be irrelevant, right, if we didn't have to pay taxes effectively in cash. And if the Federal Reserve every day, like we went through these conversations and you're just pretending we didn't have the conversations, every day the Federal Reserve takes all of those checks and converts them into a cash balance and says one bank owes this much cash to that bank, and they pay it in cash. The checks are converted into cash. Cash is the standards. Standards are important.
like water or sand. It is a man-created commodity, but that is not much to say for it.
Well, a lot to say for it if you recognize that it's a man-made commodity that is the standard, again, and that it is, you pay taxes with it. If we had a gold standard, you paid taxes with gold, and that you monetized everything based on the price of gold, the value of gold, you wouldn't say gold wasn't important, gold wasn't meaningful, even though it's just an industrial element. It shouldn't have any importance whatsoever, blah, 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 blah. It's made to make people make jewelry out of it. Why should it be relevant to the economy? Well, if you make it the standard, that's why it's relevant. Cash is relevant because it's the standard. You pay your taxes in it, and the Federal Reserve does its books in it.
It really doesn't do it any good, as in it doesn't big up cash at all. Actually, thinking about it, I think I can do another little description which might help here as well.
No, these are horrible descriptions. They have nothing to do with reality, so no help at all, thank you.
You're going to deal with one of my questions later in your video, so you might have dealt with this, but I'll do it in a slightly different way. The commodity called cash, its quantity is controlled by you and me, the people.
Okay, that's just, see, right there. Yeah, no, that's not helpful at all. You can say crap like that, like it means something, but yeah, no, that... No way. It's controlled by the Federal Reserve. That's why everybody knows who the Fed is, because the Fed's been printing money. The Fed. No, they're not talking about the people controlling the cash. Yeah, we could hoard the cash and distort its value. And that's why I made my pretty explicit argument that that's why you have to constantly maintain a little bit of inflation in the commodity price called cash, to discourage people from using cash as an investment. You don't want people to invest in cash.
It's not controlled by the government, the Treasury, the Fed, FDIC, or any authorities. It's controlled by the people.
Right. This is in the overt face of the fact. It's just a fact. Okay, yeah, that there's $1.2 trillion in circulation controlled by the Fed.
how can I say that? Imagine 100 years ago. This might run me into trouble saying 100 years ago, but imagine 100.
You could have said 1,000 years ago. Because again, you're just not getting the argument, okay? Again, this is not about paper versus digits. It's about the difference between a check drawn on a bank and a bank note drawn on the Federal Reserve. A cash note guaranteed by the U.S. federal government and a bank check guaranteed by maybe absolutely nothing. I'm allowed to say there's a distinction between those two things. I'm allowed to say that some venture capitalist loving banker producing his play money, okay, maybe his money isn't worth the fucking paper or digits it's typed out of. That's the argument. This is not about paper versus digits. I'm all for digits. I'm for Federal Reserve backed digits, not banker digits. I don't want Walmart money, I don't want Google money, and for as far as I'm concerned, I don't want Wells Fargo money.
Years ago, before checks, I would say that cash was a much bigger part of the economy. Let's say a ratio cash to GDP.
This has absolutely nothing to do with what the relationship between the IOU notes written by people to each other and the amount of cash in the economy. The importance of something has nothing to do with which one there's more of. Okay, radon is very rare, but radon's a hell of a lot more interesting than a fucking carbon molecule. So this has nothing to do with how much of something is part of the economy. It has to do with what its role in the economy is. And all these bank digits are just a bunch of bullshit, and tons of them are leveraged nonsense and absolute crap, okay, where we can say that, yes, $1.2 trillion in cash has some sort of meaning.
Now, I know GDP is a crap ratio, it's a crap thing.
Yeah, it's absolutely crap. That's right, it's made out of, let's type up some fucking digits. Let's put some money in a reserve account and buy some stuff off the stock market and create a bunch of fake GDP.
I can't think on the top of my head another one. Cash to GDP ratio, I can't think how to say it, but there would be a lot more cash in the economy 100 years ago. Then checks came and the amount of cash dwindled in the economy, and now we're in plastic world and it's shrunk to just about nothing.
Well, again, it has nothing to do with that. It hasn't shrunk to just about nothing. It's increased by 500% in the last 25 years, and that's why we've had 500% inflation. Is for that exact 30 years. Exact fucking reason. So it hasn't shrunk. Okay? It's expanded, and it's expanded too much. If there was 7 times more gold every 30 years, that might be a problem for your gold prices, might it?
It has been the people and their use of checks and their use of plastic that has controlled the amount of cash.
So let's understand. 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, people were writing IOUs to each other. Okay? They were writing them on pieces of paper. A guy would leave his mark on a piece of paper saying, yes, you gave me 500 sheep, I owe you such and such when my crop comes in. So people were writing checks or making IOUs a long time ago, and yes, that has absolutely nothing to do with cash as the standard and cash as the unit of relative measure and its use and its function as that mechanism. It has nothing to do with the fact that we pay taxes in cash, essentially, through the Federal Reserve, and that all the punched in little cards, all the ring marks, all the IOUs made, all have to go through those banking institutions, and all of those digits are converted into cash by the Federal Reserve every fucking goddamn day. We had this conversation. If you're not going to concede that's what the Federal Reserve does, it adds up the digits, comes up with a cash balance for all those checks. It looks at all those checks, switches all the checks back and forth, comes up with a cash balance, and exchanges cash between the banks. Not checks, cash.
cash in the economy, not the authorities. And it's the same now. It's the people that control the amount of cash in the economy.
Yeah, well, it's just silly. It has that absolute nonsense. Sorry, not a bit of evidence of any control whatsoever being exercised by the people. The popularity of cash has nothing to do with how much cash there would be. If people use cash, if we didn't have PayPal and you know, we didn't have whatever postal money orders or something, people would be using cash more right now, and we'd have the same exact amount of cash in circulation. The amount of cash in circulation has absolutely nothing to do with how much it's used. It has to do with what it represents as a value, its guarantee, and it has to do with the fact that things are convertible into it. So again, this is not about how fast cash is moving in the economy. It's about the fact that cash always keeps moving. It doesn't die like a digit. Checks die. Cash doesn't die. Checks, again, are claims on stuff. Cash is a commodity in and of itself.
Yeah, I think that's irrefutable, so I'll leave that.
Yeah, I think it's completely refutable. It's absolute nonsense. It's absolute rubbish. If if all the computers broke tomorrow and we all had to go back to a cash economy, the government wouldn't have a right to print a bunch of cash because of that. Okay, we'd still have to use the cash that exists.
There. Okay. The groundbreaker, the nut breaker, the big point of this video is to say, start always saying something nice when talking to Gary. You are...
Yeah, right there. I mean, that kind of crap. Is that how would you say that to other people? Or is this the kind of bullshit? I mean, I'm really just so sick of this patronizing shit, all right? You want me to treat you like a moron and an idiot? I can do that if that's the way you want to do it. Oh, Nick is just too damn goddamn stupid. He's too goddamn sensitive. So let's all patronize Nick because he's too sensitive and going to get a hurt feeling and run away and close his whole channel because he's a little whiny crybaby. I mean, is that the attitude you want me to go into with videos? Is that how I should look at you and perceive you, and then I'll say it in a video to obnoxiously insult you? I'm not looking for compliments, shithead. I'm looking for fucking rational arguments, and you're not making a fucking rational argument. All you're doing is sitting on your pious little fucking I am holier than thou fucking chair saying, I'm going to explain it to you idiots. Well, fuck you. You've got it wrong, jackass. Alright, and you've got to earn the respect by making a fucking argument that makes some kind of fucking goddamn sense. And for you, after this whole entire conversation, to sit there and think I'm obsessed with paper money, when I know I'm obsessed with guaranteed money. Those are two different fucking things. I'm obsessed with money that actually means something relative to money that means nothing. Like a Google stock. You want to say they're the same fucking thing? You want to say all claims are the same? I think that's ludicrous. I will not accept that. I am not going to live in that world. They're not all the goddamn same. I don't have to treat an idiot's crayon drawing on a piece of paper the same way I have to treat a piece of cash. Whether it's a digit or whether it's a piece of paper, it doesn't matter. Shit written in crayon is not goddamn cash, whether it's digital or not. That's my fucking point. So fuck you and this patronizing shit. Let's see what he's going to say.
Right. Many things you talk about cash. Things like it is a call on assets that your particular bank, that you bank with, your deposit digits are with, have bought.
No, it's a call on stuff, and again, I made the point pretty fucking clear. There's old stuff that you can mortgage, and then there's future profits that you can't access at all. So that's what makes it a little difficult to claim the digit and convert it immediately into cash. You can't really sell Google to get your 1/1000th of Google. If you have a claim for 1/1000th of Google, you can't really extract it out of Google. And at the same time, if you have a claim on 1/1000th of the profit of a dam that hasn't been made yet, quite obviously you can't extract your fucking profit because they haven't made the profit yet. So yeah, some of these digital note thingies don't have much relationship to actual cash because they can't be cashed out because you can't sell them to make the cash. But yes, that's the entitlement. Your entitlement is sell it and give me what I'm entitled to, the cash. That's what selling does. Selling creates cash. It forces somebody to get cash and produce it. And it remonetizes value, right? If everybody has to sell their crap, they've been hoarding it, and now they have to sell it on the market. When they go to sell it on the market to convert it into cash because they need the cash because I'm asking for my fucking cash, the fucking point is now all of a sudden the price is going to start going down. And their phony asset and their phony equity and their bubble fucking economy is going to fall on their head, not my fucking head. And that's the way it should be. They're the ones living the lie world where they pretend to be fucking rich when they haven't done anything or owned anything of real value. They've just blown nice whispery perfumed air up each other's fucking asses and pretending that all their farts are sweet. Well, they're not. And that reality should blow up in their fucking goddamn colon, not mine. And that's my claim. And that's what cash does. So when they try to sell all their crap, okay, because they have to actually pay one of their fucking bills for a change, yeah, then all of a sudden prices are going to go down, 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 down. And that's cash's role, is to force things to get remonetized. If there's too many sheep, then the price of sheep go down in dollars. If there's too much, that's the game that's the reality of it. It's the conversion. It's when you convert it into cash that things are monetized. That's how you tell the value of it. That's when the market decides how much it's worth, is when you attempt to convert it into cash. Then cash tells you what it's worth. And cash can't tell you what it's worth if cash isn't worth anything. Okay. I think it's enough. Bad, Nick. Bad. Bad video. Bad. I mean, really. We had the conversation. Shit. I have no obsession with paper, stupid fuck. This is about the commodity called cash. It's not about the paper called cash.